Rain dripped from the thick jungle leaves, each drop hitting the ground with a soft thud. Ryan sat on a flat rock near their small fire, rubbing warmth into his hands. The flames were weak, fighting against the damp night air. Across from him, Leora crouched low, her green eyes reflecting the flicker of the firelight. Her hair was damp, strands sticking to her cheeks, and her voice was softer than usual when she spoke. "You're staring again," Ryan teased, pulling out a half-burnt root vegetable from the fire. "Am I that interesting?" Leora tilted her head, her alien features unreadable. "Maybe," she said, her tone playful. "Or maybe I'm wondering why humans are so slow at eating." Ryan smirked and took a big bite, chewing loudly just to annoy her. "We like to enjoy our food." A flash of mischief crossed her face. "And what about pain? Do you enjoy that too?" Before Ryan could answer, she moved in fast, too fast for him to react, and pressed her lips to his shoulder. Her teeth grazed him for a moment before she bit down, sharp enough to sting. "Ouch!" he shouted, jerking back. "What the hell, Leora?" She leaned back, laughing quietly, the sound mixing with the crackle of the fire. "Just a joke," she said, but her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, an eerie light that made Ryan pause. "Remind me never to play games with you," he muttered, rubbing the sore spot. "You bite harder than you look." She didn't reply, just lowered her gaze to the fire again, but Ryan noticed her breathing had changed. Slower, deeper. Her hands stayed folded in her lap, yet her fingers twitched slightly, as if resisting the urge to reach for him again. The jungle around them buzzed with life. Strange creatures called out in the distance. The smell of damp earth mixed with the faint scent of something sweet, coming from her. Ryan shifted uncomfortably, the warmth of the fire suddenly feeling hotter than before. "You're acting weird," he said, trying to sound casual. "Am I?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. "Maybe humans just don't understand everything." Ryan frowned. "Try me." Her lips curved into a faint smile, but she didn't explain. Instead, she stood and walked to the edge of their small shelter, peering into the shadows of the trees. The rain had stopped, but the forest was still dripping, every sound amplified in the quiet. Ryan leaned back against the rock wall, trying to relax. His mind kept returning to that bite. It wasn't the first time she had teased him, but there was something about the way she had looked afterward, like it meant more than she was saying. He touched the mark on his shoulder again. It was already warm to the touch, almost tingling. "You know," he called to her, "if you wanted my attention, there are easier ways than drawing blood." She didn't laugh this time. Her back was still to him, her posture tense. "It's nothing," she said too quickly. "Just forget it." Ryan narrowed his eyes. "You're a terrible liar." She turned, meeting his gaze with an intensity that made his chest tighten. "Then stop asking questions," she said softly, almost like a plea. The firelight danced across her face, showing emotions he couldn't name. Fear, longing, maybe both. He wanted to press her for answers, but something told him now wasn't the time. He tossed another piece of wood onto the fire. The flames jumped higher, casting longer shadows on the jungle floor. For a moment, Ryan thought he saw movement beyond the trees, something tall and thin, watching them. "You see that?" he asked, pointing. Leora's eyes followed his hand. Her expression went sharp, all traces of playfulness gone. "Stay close to me," she said. Ryan grabbed his rifle from the ground. "What is it?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "Probably nothing." They sat in uneasy silence, the crackle of the fire the only sound between them. The warm, tingling feeling in Ryan's shoulder hadn't faded. It was stronger now, spreading through his chest in a slow burn. He shifted again, glancing at Leora, but she was staring into the darkness like she expected something to step out at any moment. When he finally laid down to rest, the mark on his shoulder throbbed with every beat of his heart. Leora stayed awake, sitting close enough that her shadow covered him. She kept one hand resting lightly on the spot she had bitten, her eyes glowing faintly as she scanned the jungle. Far beyond the trees, something responded to that glow, a faint signal, like a pulse in the air. It rippled outward, unseen and unheard by Ryan, but not by the ones searching for it. In the silence of the wet night, somewhere in the vast dark, something had noticed. Morning came slow, with pale sunlight filtering through the thick leaves. The air was damp and heavy, carrying the smell of wet soil. Ryan stretched and rubbed his eyes, still feeling the strange heat in his chest. The mark on his shoulder ached like a bruise, But it wasn't just pain. It pulsed, almost like a heartbeat. Lyora sat nearby, sharpening a blade with short, precise strokes. She didn't look at him, but she knew he was awake. "You should eat," she said flatly. Ryan grabbed a piece of dried meat from his pack, chewing while watching her. "You're avoiding me," he said. "I'm keeping watch," she replied, not looking up. "Right?" he muttered. "And that bite? Still just a joke?" Her hand paused on the blade for only a moment before she kept sharpening. "It's not important." Ryan stood, stretching his sore muscles. "It's important if it makes me feel like my blood's on fire." Her eyes flicked to him quickly, scanning his face, then she looked away again. "You'll get used to it," he frowned. "Used to what?" Before she could answer, a low rumble echoed through the jungle. Birds scattered from the treetops, and the undergrowth rustled like something large was moving. Lyora set the blade aside and stood in one smooth motion. "They're close," she whispered. Ryan's grip tightened on his rifle. "Who's close?" Her jaw clenched. "People from my world." He waited for her to explain, but she only walked to the edge of their small clearing, scanning the trees. Her shoulders were tense, and her breathing was slow but deep, like she was preparing for something dangerous. Ryan stepped closer. "You're not telling me something. That bite, did it signal them?" She didn't answer, but her silence was enough. The rustling grew louder, then stopped completely. The jungle went still, too still. Ryan raised his weapon, his eyes darting from shadow to shadow. Lyora moved to stand in front of him, her body angled like a shield. "You're acting like they're here for me," he said. "They are," she replied without turning. He blinked. "Why?" Lyora finally looked over her shoulder, her eyes glowing faintly even in daylight. "Because you're marked, and they don't let humans keep the mark." Ryan stared at her, trying to process. "You mean that stupid little bite means—" "It's not stupid," she snapped, her voice sharp. "It means we are bound. In my culture, it's mating, permanent. You can't undo it." Ryan froze, lowering his rifle slightly. "You're telling me I'm your—" "Yes," she cut in, her tone leaving no room for argument. He opened his mouth to speak, but movement in the trees caught his eye. Dark shapes slipped between the trunks, tall, armored figures with long spears and glowing visors. Leora's hand went to her weapon. "Stay behind me. Don't run unless I tell you." "Not really my style," Ryan muttered, but his heart was pounding harder now. Not from fear alone, but from something deeper, a strange pull toward her. The figures stopped just beyond the tree line, watching in silence. Then one stepped forward, raising a spear tipped with a curved blade. His voice was deep and cold. "Release the female. The human dies quickly." Ryan tightened his grip on his rifle. "Yeah, I don't think so." The alien leader tilted his head slightly. "You carry her mark. That is forbidden." Ryan glanced at Lyora. "I'm starting to really hate your rules." The leader stepped closer. Lyora's voice was low, almost trembling. "Ryan, if they take me, they'll kill you. If you run, they'll hunt you. There's only one choice. Fight." He gave her a quick nod. "Good. I was hoping you'd say that." The air grew tense. Every breath felt heavier. The leader made a sharp gesture, and two armored figures moved forward. Ryan raised his rifle, and in the same heartbeat, Lyora lunged forward with her blade, moving faster than he'd ever seen her move. The first attacker didn't even have time to react before she slashed his weapon aside. Ryan fired, the shot echoing through the jungle, dropping the second. The leader stepped back, his visor reflecting the fire in Leora's eyes. "You've chosen death, female." She didn't flinch. "No," she said, her voice fierce. "I've chosen him." The remaining attackers began to circle, their armor glinting in the sun. Ryan could feel the heat in his chest surging, his body sharper, stronger, faster than normal. Whatever that bite had done, it was more than symbolic. It was changing him. Lyora glanced at him briefly. "Stay with me. If we get separated, they win." He smirked despite the danger. "Guess we better not get separated then." The circle of enemies closed in. The jungle seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the fight to explode. The first strike came from the left, fast and sharp. Ryan ducked, feeling the blade whistle past his head and fired point blank into the attacker's chest. The alien fell, armor cracking under the impact. Lyora was already moving, her blade flashing in the sunlight as she cut down another. The air filled with the sound of metal clashing, grunts, and the heavy thud of bodies hitting the ground. Ryan's muscles burned, but the strange energy in his chest pushed him forward. Every move felt sharper, more precise, like his body knew what to do before he did. He blocked a spear thrust and slammed the butt of his rifle into an enemy's faceplate, shattering the visor. The alien dropped instantly. Leora fought with deadly grace, her movements fast but controlled. She stayed close to Ryan, covering his blind spots while he kept enemies from surrounding her. The bond between them felt real now, almost like they could sense each other's next move. But the leader hadn't joined the fight yet. He stood back, watching them with cold calculation. Then, without a word, he raised his spear and tapped the ground twice. The jungle responded with a deep, echoing growl. From the shadows, two massive creatures emerged, four-legged beasts with armored hides and jaws lined with razor teeth. They moved like predators, low to the ground, their eyes fixed on Ryan. "Those are trackers," Leora said quickly. "Once they get your scent, they never stop hunting." Ryan swallowed hard. "Great, and they look hungry." The beasts lunged. Ryan rolled aside, feeling claws rip through the dirt where he had been standing. Leora slashed at one, her blade barely cutting through its thick hide. The creature roared and swiped at her, sending her crashing into a tree. "Leora!" Ryan shouted, firing at the beast's head. The shot burned through one of its eyes and it staggered back, shrieking. The second beast charged him, faster than he expected. It slammed into his chest, knocking the wind out of him and sending him sprawling to the ground. Before it could bite down, Leora was there, driving her blade deep into the creature's neck. Black blood sprayed across the leaves, and the beast collapsed, twitching. She yanked her weapon free and turned to him. "We can't stay here. More will come." The leader finally stepped forward, his voice calm but sharp. "You run, human, but you cannot escape. The mark will lead us to you anywhere in the galaxy." Ryan forced himself to his feet, glaring back. "Then you'd better be ready for a chase." Leora grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the dense part of the jungle. They moved quickly, weaving through vines and ducking under low branches. The sounds of pursuit grew behind them, shouts, heavy footsteps, the snapping of branches. "How far do we have to go?" Ryan asked, his breath ragged. "There's a river ahead," she said. "If we cross it, we can mask our trail for a while." The ground grew wetter underfoot, the air heavy with the smell of water and mud. Ryan's boots slipped, but Leora pulled him along, never slowing. The sound of rushing water grew louder until they broke through the last line of trees and saw it. A wide, fast-moving river cutting through the jungle. "Jump or fight?" Ryan asked. "Jump," she said, already wading in. The water was shockingly cold, dragging at them with strong currents. Ryan held his rifle above the surface as they pushed through. Behind them, the enemy broke through the trees, weapons raised. Shots sizzled into the water around them. Ryan fired back once, forcing the attackers to duck. Leora gritted her teeth, pushing forward until they reached the far bank. She scrambled up first, then reached down to pull him out. They collapsed in the wet grass, breathing hard. Ryan looked at her, water dripping from his hair. "So, this is your idea of fun?" She gave a faint smile, but her eyes were serious. "They won't stop, Ryan. That bite tied you to me. In my people's law, a bond like this can't be broken. And for them, a human bonded to one of us is an insult they can't allow." He ran a hand over his face, the reality sinking in. "So what now? We just keep running forever?" Her gaze drifted toward the dark stretch of jungle ahead. "No, we find a way to break the hunt, or we make them fear what the mark really means." The air around them was quiet for now, but Ryan knew it wouldn't last. Somewhere behind them, the hunt had only just begun. The jungle grew darker as they moved, the thick canopy blocking most of the sunlight. Every step squished into damp soil, and strange insect calls echoed all around. Ryan kept his rifle ready, eyes scanning for movement. The air felt heavy, pressing down on them, but it wasn't just the heat, it was the feeling of being hunted. Leora led the way, her movements silent and deliberate. She stopped suddenly, raising a hand for Ryan to freeze. He heard it then, a faint metallic clink like armor brushing against metal. The sound was close. "They're spreading out," she whispered. "They'll try to push us toward a trap." Ryan frowned. "Then we should hit them first." Her eyes flicked to him, a faint smile on her lips. "That's the human way, isn't it?" He shrugged. "Better than waiting to get surrounded." They moved toward the sound, careful with every step. Through the thick leaves, Ryan spotted two armored hunters kneeling by a device planted in the ground. It pulsed with a soft red glow. "What's that?" he asked quietly. "A locator beacon," she said. "It marks our position for the rest of their forces. If they leave it here, we'll never lose them." Ryan didn't hesitate. He aimed and fired, the shot ripping through the beacon and one of the hunters. The other turned, raising his weapon, but Leora was already there, slashing him down in one clean strike. The forest went silent again, except for the rustle of leaves in the wind. Ryan checked the damaged beacon. "Think that bought us time?" Leora shook her head. "Minutes, maybe, not more." They moved quickly, heading deeper into the jungle until they reached a river crossing blocked by fallen logs. The air here smelled fresher, the sound of rushing water masking their footsteps. But Ryan noticed something else, a faint shimmer in the air above the logs. He grabbed Leora's arm. "Look." She narrowed her eyes. "An energy snare. If we walk through it, we'll be trapped." Ryan crouched low, studying the shimmering field. "Can you disable it?" She shook her head. "It's tied to their ship's systems. Only a controller device can shut it off. Then we go around," he said. Before they could turn, movement burst from the trees. 3 hunters rushing toward them. Ryan fired, taking down one, but the other 2 came fast. Leora met them head-on, her blades striking with brutal precision. Ryan joined her, swinging the rifle like a club when one got too close. The fight was quick but violent. Ryan's shoulder burned where one of the hunters had slammed into him, but the strange heat in his chest kept him moving. Leora glanced at him after the last body fell. "You're changing," she said quietly. "Yeah, I noticed," he replied, breathing hard. They pushed on, weaving through thick vines until they reached a clearing. In the middle stood a large stone ruin, half swallowed by roots and moss. The walls were covered in alien carvings, and a broken archway led into darkness. "We can rest here," Leora said, stepping inside. The air in the ruin was cool and dry, the sound of the jungle muffled by the thick stone. Ryan set down his pack and checked his ammo. "So how exactly do we make them fear the mark?" Leora's eyes softened. "The mark means we are one. In battle, our strength is doubled. They believe it's a dangerous bond, but also forbidden." Ryan leaned against a wall. "Then we make them regret ever chasing us." Before she could answer, a sharp metallic clang echoed from outside. Ryan grabbed his rifle, moving to the doorway. Through the trees, he saw them. 6 hunters moving in fast, led by the same armored leader. "They found us," he said. Leora's grip tightened on her blade. "Then we make our stand." The hunters rushed the ruin, their weapons glowing. Ryan fired from the doorway, dropping 2 before they got close. Leora fought at his side, moving like a storm, cutting down anyone who stepped too near. The leader finally charged, his spear aimed for Ryan's chest. Ryan barely blocked in time, the impact jarring his arms. The leader was strong, his strikes heavy and precise. Leora tried to flank him, but he spun, blocking her with a sweep of his spear. The fight raged inside the ruin, stone chips flying as weapons struck the walls. Ryan and Leora moved together, their attacks flowing like they'd trained for years. Finally, Ryan saw his opening. He sidestepped a spear thrust and slammed the butt of his rifle into the leader's helmet. The visor cracked, revealing sharp, predatory eyes. The leader staggered, and Leora's blade came down in a clean arc, slicing his weapon in half. He stepped back, breathing hard, then raised his hands in a strange gesture. The remaining hunters froze, pulling back. "This isn't over," the leader growled before retreating into the trees. Ryan lowered his weapon, heart pounding. Leora's breathing was heavy, her eyes still glowing faintly. She stepped closer, her voice low. "They'll be back, but next time, they'll bring more." Ryan met her gaze, the heat in his chest burning stronger than ever. "Then we'll be ready." Night fell over the jungle, wrapping the ruins in darkness. The broken stone walls cast long shadows under the dim light of the moon. Ryan sat near a small hidden fire deep inside the ruin, cleaning his rifle. The fight had left his arms aching, but the heat in his chest still pulsed, steady and strong. It wasn't just adrenaline. He knew it now. Something inside him had changed since Leora's bite. Leora sat across from him, her blade resting on her knees. She stared into the fire, silent, her eyes distant. Ryan studied her for a moment before speaking. "You're thinking about them, aren't you? The ones chasing us." She nodded slowly. "They won't stop. The leader Kareth, he's bound by the same laws I am. To him, you are a violation of tradition, and to the others, your death will erase my shame." Ryan frowned. "Shame? You saved my life, more than once." Her gaze lifted to meet his. In their eyes, I broke the law. I marked a human. I made you part of me. That bond is for my kind only, and only with permission from the council. Without it, she looked away. They'll call for my execution too. Ryan leaned back against the wall. So we're in this together. That's fine by me. She gave him a faint, almost sad smile. You don't understand, Ryan. The bond doesn't just make us stronger. It ties our lives. If you die, I die. If I die, his hand stilled on the rifle, then I guess I'll make sure neither of us dies. They fell into silence again. Outside, the jungle whispered with strange sounds, chirps, clicks, and the distant growl of something hunting. The night air was cool, carrying the faint scent of rain. Ryan felt his eyelids grow heavy, but Leora's sudden movement kept him awake. She rose to her feet, her eyes scanning the dark. Someone's out there. Ryan grabbed his rifle and followed her to the broken archway. At first, he saw nothing but shadows. Then, a faint red light blinked in the distance, weaving between the trees. A drone, Leora murmured, scouting for them. Ryan aimed, but Leora caught his arm. If you shoot, they'll know exactly where we are. We wait until it's close, then disable it. The drone drifted closer, its soft hum growing louder. Ryan's muscles tensed. When it floated past the outer wall, Leora leapt from the shadows, her blades slicing through the machine's side. Sparks burst into the air as it crashed into the dirt. She stomped on it, shattering the lens. They know it's gone, she said. We have to move. They packed quickly, leaving the ruin and slipping into the dense jungle. The moonlight barely reached through the leaves, forcing them to move carefully. Every twig snap sounded too loud. Ryan's nerves stayed sharp, the heat in his chest like a constant drumbeat. Hours passed before Leora stopped, holding a hand up for silence. Listen, she whispered. Ryan strained his ears and caught it, a low rumble, far away but growing. Not thunder, engines. They brought a skimmer, Leora said grimly. Fast, silent, and armed. They can sweep the jungle in minutes. Ryan scanned the trees. Then we need to hide somewhere they can't see from above. She led him to a deep ravine overgrown with thick vines. They climbed down carefully, their boots sliding on the damp earth. The air grew cooler here, and the sound of the engines faded under the rushing of water somewhere below. They followed the sound until they reached a narrow stream cutting through the ravine. The water was cold, the current strong enough to pull at their legs. Leora crouched, touching the surface. If we walk in the stream, we can lose their scent. They moved quickly, water splashing softly around their boots. Ryan glanced at her as they walked. This bond thing, you said it makes us stronger in battle. How does it work? She didn't look at him. It's instinct. When one is in danger, the other feels it. Our bodies react together. Your strength, your speed. It's not just you anymore. It's us. Ryan smirked faintly. Guess that explains why I've been moving like I've trained for years. Before she could answer, a beam of light swept across the ravine above them. They froze, pressing against the wet stone wall. The beam lingered for a moment, then moved on. The hum of the skimmer grew distant again. They kept moving until the stream widened and opened into a shallow pool surrounded by mossy rocks. Leora stopped and crouched low. We'll rest here until sunrise. They won't find us tonight. Ryan set his rifle beside him and sat on a flat rock, letting the cool air calm his pounding heart. Leora sat beside him, closer than before, her shoulder brushing his. For a moment, the hunt, the danger, and the rules of her people felt far away. She glanced at him, her voice soft. You could still walk away, you know. If you left me now, they might let you live. He met her eyes without hesitation. Not happening. I'm not leaving you to face this alone. Her lips curved in a small, genuine smile. Then we fight together, to the end. The jungle around them was silent, but somewhere in the darkness beyond the pool, a pair of glowing eyes watched, waiting for dawn. The first light of dawn crept over the ravine, turning the mossy rocks a pale green. Ryan woke to the sound of Leora moving quietly, refilling their water skins from the pool. Her eyes flicked to him when she noticed he was awake. They'll move faster today, she said. The skimmer will sweep again, and Kareth will push his hunters harder. Ryan sat up, rubbing his face. Then we keep ahead of them. Leora nodded, but her expression was heavy. We'll need to head toward the old supply outpost. It's the only place with enough weapons and power cells to make a stand. Ryan grabbed his rifle and slung it over his shoulder. Lead the way. They climbed out of the ravine. the jungle waking around them with bird calls and rustling leaves. The ground was wet, slowing their pace, but Leora kept moving without pause. Ryan noticed she was more alert than usual, glancing back every few minutes. "You're expecting trouble," he said. "I can feel it," she replied, "through the bond. Something is coming." Ryan tightened his grip on the rifle. "Good. Saves us the trouble of looking for them." They pushed through a wall of hanging vines and stepped into a narrow path lined with thick roots. That was when Ryan heard it, a faint mechanical click. His instincts screamed. "Down!" he shouted, pulling Leora with him. A blast of energy tore through the air where they had been standing, scorching the trees. 4 hunters emerged from the shadows, their weapons glowing. Ryan fired first, hitting one in the chest. Leora was already moving, closing the distance to slice through another before he could aim. The fight was fast and brutal. Ryan ducked behind a tree, returning fire while Leora engaged 2 at once. The bond between them felt electric. He moved as she moved, their attacks syncing without a word. When the last hunter fell, the path was silent again, except for their heavy breathing. "They're getting closer," Ryan said. Leora wiped black blood from her blade. "And more desperate. Kareth won't wait much longer before he comes himself." They didn't stop to rest. Hours passed as they navigated the twisting jungle paths, the air growing hotter and heavier. At last, they reached a steep hill covered in jagged rocks. At the top, the crumbling remains of the old supply outpost stood against the sky. Ryan exhaled slowly. "Looks like it's been here forever." "It has," Leora said, leading him up the slope. "But if the power core still works, we can use its defenses." The climb was rough, but they reached the entrance without incident. Inside, the outpost smelled of rust and dust. Broken crates littered the floor, and shattered screens lined the walls. Ryan searched quickly, finding a stack of old plasma cells and a few intact grenades. "This will work," he said. Leora tested the control panel, and to their surprise, the lights flickered on. "The shields are functional, but weak. They'll hold for a short fight, not a siege." Ryan set the grenades near the entrance. "Then we make the fight short." They worked in silence, preparing traps and loading weapons. As they moved, Ryan noticed Leora stealing glances at him. Finally, he asked, "Something on your mind?" She hesitated. "If we don't survive this, you should know, when I bit you, it wasn't just instinct. I didn't want to lose you. I chose it." Ryan paused, meeting her gaze. "Then I'm glad you did." Before either of them could say more, an alarm from the control panel blared. The shield sensors had detected movement, multiple signatures closing in fast. "They're here," Leora said. The hum of engines filled the air, followed by the heavy thud of boots on rock. Through the cracked windows, Ryan saw them, Kareth at the front, flanked by more hunters than they'd faced before. The skimmer hovered behind them, its guns aimed at the outpost. Ryan checked his rifle. "Guess it's time to find out how much trouble this bond really is for them." The first wave charged up the hill, but the traps went off, grenades sending fire and shrapnel through their ranks. Ryan fired from the doorway, while Leora met the survivors head-on, her blade flashing in the dusty light. The bond between them surged, making every move sharper, faster, deadlier. Kareth himself stepped into the fight, his spear clashing against Leora's blade. Ryan tried to flank him, but the leader's movements were precise, forcing them both back. "You can't win," Kareth growled. "The bond is your weakness." Ryan grinned through clenched teeth. "Feels like a strength to me." The battle raged, the sound of weapons and shouts echoing off the outpost walls. And as the fight reached its peak, Ryan knew this was only the beginning. The air inside the outpost was thick with smoke and the sharp scent of burning metal. Sparks rained from the ceiling where a stray blast had torn through old wiring. Ryan ducked behind a fallen crate, reloading his rifle as Kareth pressed forward with relentless force. Leora fought at his side, her blade striking in quick, precise arcs. But the leader was strong, each blow from his spear heavy enough to shake her arms. 2 hunters tried to flank them from the left. Ryan rolled out from cover, firing 3 shots that dropped them both. He was breathing hard, sweat stinging his eyes, but the strange heat in his chest kept him moving, kept him sharp. Leora felt it too, the bond pulling at her every movement, telling her exactly where he was and what he needed before he even spoke. Kareth snarled and swung his spear in a wide arc, forcing them to split apart. Ryan dove behind a support pillar while Leora slid low, slicing at his legs. The leader leapt back, avoiding the strike, and slammed the butt of his spear into her ribs. She staggered but didn't fall. "You are mine to judge, Leora," Kareth growled, "and your human will die first." Ryan stepped out from behind the pillar, anger flashing in his eyes. "You'll have to go through me." Kareth didn't hesitate. He lunged for Ryan, but Leora moved faster, intercepting the attack. Her blade caught the spear, locking the two weapons together. "You will not touch him," she said, her voice low and steady. More hunters poured into the outpost, their boots pounding against the metal floor. Ryan tossed a grenade toward the entrance, the blast sending bodies flying and buying them a few moments. The shockwave rattled the walls, dust falling from the ceiling. "Ryan, now!" Leora shouted. They moved together, attacking Kareth from both sides. He blocked Leora's strike with the shaft of his spear, but Ryan slammed into him from behind, knocking the weapon from his hands. The leader spun, claws flashing, and raked across Ryan's arm, tearing the sleeve and drawing blood. The sting was sharp, but it only fueled Ryan's determination. Leora's eyes glowed brighter, her movements faster, fiercer. She drove her blade into Kareth's chest, but his armor absorbed most of the blow. He shoved her back, panting, rage twisting his face. "This ends now." Ryan saw the opening, Kareth's damaged visor. Without hesitation, he fired a single shot. The blast shattered the helmet completely, the leader stumbling backward in shock. Leora seized the moment, swinging her blade in a powerful arc that cut deep across his side. Kareth fell to one knee, black blood dripping onto the floor. His eyes burned with hate, but his strength was fading. He looked between them, breathing hard. "You will never be safe. The bond will doom you both." Leora stepped closer, her blade steady. Then let it. With one final strike, she ended it. Kareth's body collapsed, the clang of his armor echoing through the ruined outpost. The remaining hunters hesitated, then began to retreat, dragging their wounded with them. The skimmer lifted into the air, disappearing into the jungle sky. The silence that followed was heavy. Ryan leaned against the wall, his arm bleeding, his chest still burning with that strange bond-driven energy. Leora walked to him, checking the wound with quick, practiced hands. "You're alive," she said softly, as if reminding herself. He smirked, though exhaustion tugged at him. "Told you we'd win." Her lips curved in the faintest smile. "This time. But they weren't lying, Ryan. Others will come. The mark can be felt by my kind anywhere. We'll never stop running." He met her gaze, unshaken. "Then we run together, or fight together, whatever it takes." Her hand lingered on his arm, her eyes searching his face. "You don't have to carry this." "I'm not carrying it," he said. "We're carrying it." They stood there for a moment, the ruined outpost around them, the jungle wind slipping through the broken walls. Outside, the sun had risen fully, painting the leaves in gold. It should have felt like victory, but Ryan knew it was something else, an uneasy beginning. Leora stepped back, retrieving her blade. "We move before they regroup. There's a settlement 3 days from here. If we reach it, we might find allies." Ryan grabbed his rifle and followed her out into the light. The jungle was alive again, the calls of distant creatures mixing with the hum of unseen machines. Every shadow could hide an enemy, but every step forward was theirs to take. As they disappeared into the trees, the bond between them pulsed steady and strong. Whatever came next, they would face it as one.